first name is Willy?
Willie, yes, sir.
Okay, today is February 23rd, 1988.
Yes, sir, I guess that's right.
And this is Joe Todd, an interview with Mr. John Willie Adams, and we're... How far is this from Fort Townsend?
About 6.5 miles.
6.5 miles. So where were you born?
I was born in Beard, Texas.
Beard, Texas.
Callahan County.
When's your birthday?
8th day of January,
What year?
1897.
Who was your father?
Oh, W. Adams.
And your mother?
Loucharlie Rowe.
What was the first name?
Loucharlie.
How do you spell that?
Loucharley, I guess.
And Rowe?
R-O-W-E.
And were they both from Texas?
No, this from Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yes.
When did they go to Texas?
In 96.
Why'd they move from Arkansas to Texas?
They moved from Arkansas. They was married to Arkansas, and they moved up here where the standpipe is at Hugo, at Terry Hill to No Log House in 96. And during that time, they moved on down to Callahan County, Texas. And I was born January the 8th down there in a dugout. And we come on after I was born to the Dokafield place down here. And I was out there about 3 years ago, and I guess the old house was still there. It's an old house with a chimney in the front. They call it the Carpenter place. I guess that's the first house I ever lived in, right there. And boys used it for a barn. They call it Pritchard, the Carpenter place, but Mr. George Pritchard had it. We rented it from Mr. George Pritchard. Mr. George Pritchard had killed Carpenter the year before, and he had a case and had to go to parish to court out of the Fort Territory. And I remember my dad asked him what he wanted to plant. He said, it don't matter what you plant. I don't figure on being here nohow. Because he figured they was going to stick him for killing this fellow Carpenter.
How come they killed him?
It's a kind of a long story. They said old Grandpa McIntosh cleared him. I don't know how. But he killed him at Carpenter's house.
Did you know the story? How he killed him?
No, he killed him at his house, that's all. And he that was 96, you see. And they had to go to Paris then to stand trial.
How'd they kill him?
He shot him.
Shot him?
Yeah.
Why'd they shoot him?
The difference I never did know.
Yeah, okay. And that was in 96?
96, yes, sir.
How old were you when you came to Indian Territory?
I was a baby. We come the same year that I was born down there.
Why'd the folks move up here to the territory?
See, he come through here and stayed up here and worked for old man Muleshoe Self up there in 96. And when he went on down there, and my mother had some kinfolks in Beard, Texas. So they went down there and worked up till I was born. And he said he wasn't going to stop west of the Bakamisha River, and he come to that Bird Creek down here. And that's where he stopped. A pair of old gray horses in the wagon. Drove all of them down on the wagon, all the way around the wagon. There wasn't no car at that time. My first day at school was at Sawyer, full-blood Indian out before. I believe your dad had the old store building there long years ago. He had a store there in Sawyer, and we had this school in an old vacant store. And I think your dad had a store there before we went there. He was here a long time ago, Mr. Vanderbilt. And now this is a full-blood Indian, Howard Reed, this Indian. His name was Marcus Batiste. I went one school to him, and he got killed. And I hired a fellow by the name of Matthew, and I went 2 terms to him. That is a 2 institute school. That was before the railroad come through. Railroad come through down here about 1951, 51, right through there.
Was your father a farmer?
Yes, sir, and a stockman.
What work or what chores did you do in the farm when you were a boy?
All of it.
All of it.
Yes, sir. We didn't have no tractors. We plowed everything with a Georgia stock and a double shovel. That's double shovel is about the biggest thing we had. We walked and plowed.
How many acres did you plow in one day?
We generally had about 15 acres in corn.
How long did it take to plow the 15 acres?
Well, sir, you plow around 3 or 4 acres a day with a Georgia stock with a horse.
Ever have a sulky plow?
No. Well, I don't know what you call it. Well, we had a turn plow.
Well, that's a riding plow.
No. We hooked a mule to it, 12, 14 inches, and turn the plow. One horse walked the fur and the other not here, Go around, break your land that way, walking plow.
Did you prefer horses or mules? Plow?
Mules best plow.
Why?
I don't know. I just got along with them better. They're tougher. They're not all the time getting skinned up. And we've had some of them old mules. You take them out there in the garden, throw your lines off. That old mule, just talk to it. Gee and haw, go on and get up. You put that old mule on a ridge and she wouldn't leave it from one end to the other.
What type of crops were you raising?
You mean now, then?
No, back then.
Then, corn. Corn is about the only thing we growed. Didn't have no cotton gin till old man Coley put the cotton gin in down here way later. Way later they went to growing cotton. At that time it's cotton and corn. Had to haul a cotton from here to Old Goodland. Wasn't no Hugo. We hauled it to Old Goodland up there to sell it.
How big was Goodland at that time?
Oh, about like it is now. There ain't too much difference in it. Had a store there. I only had a store there then. Today I haven't got
that. Indian school was there then, was it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did your folks have to get permission to come into the territory from the Indians?
I don't think so. See, they went from Arkansas up here, and I left them here and went down to Callahan County, Texas, and drove back up here the next year. And, no, I don't think so.
Now, when they settled on the land, they couldn't own the land, could they?
No. We leased the land.
Okay. Who'd you lease it from?
The first land we leased was from old man George Pritchard. We call it rented. Rented for a year, And the next year then we went to Howard's place down there, and we stayed at Howard's place for years and years till I was a great big boy. 5, 6, 7 years. I was about 7, 8 years old. I went to school down at Sawyer down there. We didn't have no public school till after state ups.
Tell me about the school. You say it wasn't a public school. What kind of school was it?
Tuition school. I guess we all just about gone that went to that school. Curtis Bird's mother down there. His mother went to school down there. Their name was Harvey. And there was 2 of the King girls went, Ewer and Annie King. And I know Annie did, and I figured the other one did. And that was about all that I can recall that went at that time. Annie married Jim Baldwin, and Mills up there the other side of Ringo killed Jim, and she had the Willy Ursery that lived at Sawyer. That's the only child that they had, and Jim King, her uncle, raised Willie down there. Annie died right after Jim got killed. And Jim raised Willy right above Sawyer there. Still lives right there in H. She married Dew Hurstry. Never did have no children.
How big was Fort Towson in those days?
Wasn't no 4,000.
There wasn't.
No, so the old fort was out there, but they had a store on this side we called Dokesville. They had a general store there and a blacksmith shop. And old man Grogan run the blacksmith shop, and old man George Rodenthal run the store. I remember we lived on Howard's place at that time, had a pair of old gray horses. One morning, my daddy always had a wood cook stove, of course, you know, and he'd always start a fire and help me cook breakfast. I'm about 4 or 5 years old, and I was in there listening to him, and had a pair of old gray horses. He called one of these old horses Joe and the other Buck. They were talking, you know, and cooking breakfast, and he said, I'm going down to the store, to the blacksmith shop today and get old Joe shod. Well, I never had heard the word before. Well, I studied around about right. I understood him. Yeah, I just figured you had him shot, you know. Well, that bothered me pretty bad, so I put in to go with him. He said, no, it'd take all day to come down on the wagon and back, you know. No use you going all the way down. I said, yeah, I want to go. Well, they said, go in there and change clothes. You go, you'll be sorry it was a long ride down there and back. So as we got started, I said, Papa, what are you going to have old Joe shot for? He said, I'm going to have him shod. Well, I wasn't no better off. I didn't know what shod was. He said, they're going to nail some iron things on the bottom of his feet. Well, that didn't suit me too good, driving them nails in old Joe's foot, you know. So I've seen that old horse shod, old man Grogan shod, and that's the first horse I ever seen shod in my life. And we got that over with. And old man Rodenthal's wife, man Rodenthal lived in a little old house right up there. It hadn't been too long since one of the Nelson boys lived in it. The last old house that went there. Old man Rodenthal was living in that. The old general store was down below it a little bit. Old man Rodenthal's wife died there. Well, I was standing right there with my hand up on the bed, you know, watching her when she passed away. He was waiting on her. And her grandson was up in the courthouse one day. And he said, your name Adams? I said, yeah. He said, do you remember the Rodenthal? And I said, yeah. In fact, Miss Rodenthal, Grandma Rodenthal, was the first human being I ever seen die. He said, you know when that was? And I said, no, I don't know when it was, but I remember just as well as yesterday. I standing there with my hand up on the bed when George Rodenthal was waiting on her when she passed away. He said it in 51. I was 4 years old. But I remember it just as well as anything. And that old boy now, he still lives on the south of the courthouse up there. His name is Scruggs, what did I call it a while ago? Joe Grubbs instead of Scruggs. It's Grubbs. He lived up close to Spencerville. But you don't remember Todd Collins?
No.
He was a brother to Jim and that bunch. Todd, he didn't do nothing but gamble. Just about all he done was gamble. Well, I had an uncle that lived there that come from Arkansas, the name of Jack Egerton. There was about 4 or 5 of them old boys down there that played poker all the time. Well, this old grub boy lived up close to Spencerville, but he was down there this night. They all played poker down there, and he'd taken the money. Started the horse back home, and up this side of Spencerville, somewhere they found his horse. But they haven't found him yet. But this old boy told me this day up here at the courthouse, old man Heiner, the old road crossed to the ferry north of where the dam is down there now. And old man Heiner run a little store right this side of the river. He said that somebody found a note up the river from old man Heiner's store. Said we carried him up the log the log went out into the river about 6 or 8 feet and threw him over into that log. And that old boy, I believe that was his daddy, that they killed him up there and carried him down there and threw him in the river. Never did find nothing no more. But there was a pretty bad bunch down there about that time. Told me they had a gambling bunch down there, and told Jack Egerton. They was Egerton's Will. Well, old man Jack moved up there in 1916, right there by the old Ringgold Cemetery. But he run a store there later and was running one at that time.
How big was Dokesville at that time?
Do I?
How big was Dokesville at that time?
Just a store and blacksmith shop and old man Rosenthal's house and maybe one more there. That was just about it.
What were the towns in the area besides Goodland and Dokesville? Any other towns in this area?
No, I don't think so. We'll have to see the next. There wasn't no Idabel come along by statehood. Garvin was an old town now. It was older than Hugo. Grant down there is older than Hugo. Hugo didn't build till they built the Friscoes from old Arkansas to Hugo.
When was that? Was that in 1901?
Around 1901. Yeah, we were living down there at Sawyer. They built it with mules. And they had a camp there, sprang right across, you know where the old Sheets boy lived? We lived between him and the railroad down there, right where the highway is now, when they built the railroad there. And they had the teams across the railroad there, and there's a spring over there. They used that spring for water. They built it with mules. Uncle Jack Egerton, you know where the old John Smith house place is? You know where old man Charlie lived?
Yeah.
On down that way on the south side is where John lived. That's where they moved. And Uncle Jack Egerton, he went back down here the other side, this side of that, right in about Valiant, and helped them survey out from there on to Hugo. And Uncle Alf Adams, that was my daddy's brother, made a crop there on old man Willie Wilson's place there then. Old man Willie Wilson lived down there in the old house, you know, where Hall kept along there. And then he built the old big two-store house there in 4,000. He married a gardener, a white woman, Willie Wilson did. Old man Muleshoe Self, he had stock from around Grant, from on up. He lived up there where that, about 5 miles north of Hugo up there. And he had stock from there from on down south to Horse Prairie down on.
Where's Horse Prairie?
Oh, it's right down below Grant, between Grant and Red River there. It's an old place. The Selfs, they come in there long years ago. George Self, my daddy, was big buddies. After he come back from down yonder, see, he'd work for me year after year. Come back from down there, they'd swap work. George would come over here and help him a week, you know, to get him up that, help him pin on wild ponies. A lot of old ponies down on Horse Prairie. Daddy had a little old sorrel, bald-faced horse. Daddy weighed about 125 pounds, and he was a pretty good horseman. And George come over here and help him a week, get him to go over and help them, you see. And old man Muleshoe Self gave me a pair of lambs, and I was, about like that, I guess. And I'll tell you, somebody writing the Self's history now, if he's still living, that's Tommy there at Hugo. Tommy Self there at Hugo is writing a book of the Self family. And he'd tell me about old man Self giving me the sheep. And I said, yeah, I raised a big bunch of sheep out of that. Daddy got goats and I kept sheep.
When was Dokesville established?
Dokesville?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was a way on back. I don't know. We got mail about twice a week, just about twice a week. They brought it in horseback.
And was it established same time as the old fort?
It was a little bit before the fort.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's where they got the mail. I believe that's right. The old fort now was about, what was it, about 1850?
1824.
1824, I guess that's about right. Yeah, all those was older than that, I guess.
Tell me about the old fort. Did you ever go out there in the early days?
Yes, sir.
What did that look like then?
I never was there when it's up and see. No, I didn't. But I'll tell you, William, I foxhorned right there in 20. Bill Stinson owned that, at one time. There's one of them old barracks over there, the one on the southeast corner there. I think you'll find a tunnel from that old barrack that comes out, down up the creek. Down there, there's a bluff comes around.
Yeah.
And up about 4 foot here, there's a hole goes in there. They claim that they had a tunnel from that old barrack down the left. Would come out there. I know Fox come through there. You did all the time. But if you're ever down there, it'll be about 4 or 5 foot high. And there's a hole up there big enough for a person to crawl through all right. And they tell me that come out of that. Well, I don't know about that now, but that's what they tell.
Yeah.
But it does go a long way because we run Fox out of it.
Did they have horse races here before statehood in this area?
Yes, sir. I'll tell you who had the fastest horses. Half nigger and half white man, Joe Willis. But with Clanahan, they liked the horse race.
Where were the races held?
Well, I don't know. Down there somewhere on the prairie, I reckon. I don't know. Down there about below 4,000 somewhere. Joe lived at that time, and he had these horses lived where the bridge is out back to the right, back up in there somewhere. We call it the old Joe Willis place.
How many wagons did you have on the farm?
One wagon.
Just one wagon?
Yes.
What kind of wagon was it?
Well, sir, that Nartard wagon, and William can describe them about as well as I can. We call them butcher knife wagons.
Butcher knife wagon.
That's what we call them, butcher knife wagons. They was about, well, they made them about 2 or 3 sizes. They made them all the way from 2.5 to 3 1/4 inch.
Who made the wagons? What brand was it?
Well, let's see. I don't know. I bought one from old Wilbur Montuppy, and I believe they called it it's either a Studebaker or Moline. I believe it's a Studebaker wagon. I don't know where it's made.
Can you tell me what maintenance you had to pull to keep the wagon going?
Well, we had a pair of horses to it. You mean?
No, I mean, how do you keep the tires tight or grease the axles, or what work you had
Oh,
to
you
do
had to
on it?
grease that wagon. You had to grease that wagon about every time you used it.
Tell me about that. How you do that?
Well, you got a wrench. It goes in the pin where your double tree fastens on. You got a double tree across this way and a single tree over here and a hole in the middle of this double tree. Well, this pin that goes down this way is pinned with a straight pin with a cup on it about like that that'll fit them taps on that wagon wheel. You go around and pull that out of the tongue of the wagon, carry it around there and unscrew this tap. Pull your wheel nearly off. You won't pull it plumb off, and grease, place about that far on your spindle. And then slip it back on there and screw your tap back on. And then tighten it with this wrench. Yeah, you have to grease on a wagon because that's all the grease they'll get. They made a axle grease to go on there.
What else do you have to do? What other work?
You mean to keep the wagon going?
Yeah.
Well, every once in a while I'd have to build a wheel. Old man Grogan down there would put up a wheel, boy, it was standing good. He'd make the rim, the spoke, the hub.
What are the spokes made of? What kind of wood?
Oh, they about just about that big around, I guess, and they'll be all the way around this wheel. I don't know just how many spokes, but there'll be spokes all the way around this wheel. And the longer, you put the long high wheels behind, short wheels in front. And to put an axle in, now I've done that. Them wheels, you got to take off in front that where your wheels will come in about 2.5 inches, the front wheels, where they'll toe in about 2.5 inches from the back, to make it run like it ought to.
How do you keep the tires tight?
Well, that's another problem. They'll shrink you if they get so loose. You carry them to the blacksmith shop and he'll cut them and shrink them. They'll heat that tar all the way around, put it on there, and then pour water on it, you know, and it'll draw up, you know. That's tighten it up on there.
I've heard of people soaking the wheels in water.
Well, that'd tighten it some, but yeah, I've done that. I poured water on them. It tightens them up. Them old wagons are all right smart. We all, at the Pine Belt put this in here, we had Butcher and I wagons in. We all stayed back close to the roof to the railroad up here. They taken the track up the Pine Belt did after I moved here.
What kind of house did your parents have when they moved to Oklahoma or Indian Territory?
Most of them are log houses.
So you were raised in a log house here?
No, down there. Most of them were log houses. The house I lived in down there was a box house. They had the sawmill right on this other creek, up there right above where Willy lives at the old Montague place. That's where the old sawmill. That's where Howard's got the lumber to build their house with. It was built out of lumber.
Tell me about that sawmill. How was it operated?
Well, I had a steam boiler, and it run by steam and a steam engine. And a circle saw would be about 3.5 foot.
How was the blade hooked up to the engine?
Well, just exactly I don't know, but they had a shaft to run this on, and then they had a belt that run from the motor in the engine to this shaft, you know, and it turned that and turned the saw.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
They had little old sawmills later on all over the country, and they finally got to run them with gasoline. But at that time, it didn't have no gasoline.
You ever work in a sawmill down here?
No, sir. Never did, but I loaded lots of logs. I quit them when I went to about 45 poles to the load. That's when I quit them. You can pull them poles off, take this long, go out there and get one of them poles that was a log of 200 or 300 feet in it, you see. And I was walking, got the best of them, but I had a good pair of mules. I go out there and pull one up through them old mules. Go out there and hook it up, and he wouldn't miss it that much, you know, stopping right where I put the dozen. But I had men near way, you know, to cut through there. And loading them poles, 3 of them a load, 5 of them a load, 7 of them a load, but otherwise they'll just skid up that pole. But if you take 3, 5, and 7, they'll roll. They'll roll up there. I'll load lots of logs.
Did you know any of the Indians around here that came on the Trail of Tears?
No, I don't. The last Indians that was homesteaded here was Thomas's over here this side of Spencerville, and Fredericks was the last 2 that was homesteaded here. A fellow by the name of Black come in here. He had epileptic fits, little fella, but he talked that Choctaw good. He had a hat and a pair of ponies. Now, I remember the little old pony's name. Maud and Jerry was his little pony's name. And he'd haul them Choctaw around, you know, and show them what land that they're supposed to get, you know.
Were you here when they surveyed this country?
Well, They surveyed it since statehood.
No, this is before when they first started giving the land to the Indians.
No, I don't know about that.
That was the, when did the Dawson Mission come through here? Yeah. No. Were most of the people around here for or against statehood?
Well, I don't remember. They must have been for it because they got it.
You remember that day, statehood day?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that day.
Well, I'll tell you, we had a little trouble after it was statehood. You know, I had a little trouble with finding the county seat, Guthrie. And they had about 3 places, Oklahoma City and Guthrie and another little place up there that they had kind of settled on, but they finally settled on Oklahoma City. I don't think they ever, and Guthrie's not too far from Oklahoma City up there, but they finally settled on Oklahoma City.
Was there a big celebration down here on that day?
Not too awful much.
Tell me about when they started building Hugo. Did you go over there when it was just getting started?
Yes, sir. It was right before there's any Hugo. Well, the first thing I done, they had we went to Hugo, you know, from down here. We'd go to Hugo, stay all night. They had a wagon yard there, a place you could camp and feed your horses, stalls, and lots, and corrals and things. That was about the first thing that they built. And they kept that on from on, you might say, till cars come in. We'd drive from here up there, and I'd stay all night, you know, and go to the wagon yard and put up there and sleep in the wagon. Most of them did.
How much did it cost to stay in the wagon yard?
No, it wouldn't cost much. Nothing like it cost in the room and house now. About $1.50. So money was money, I'll tell you that for sure. On in Howard, on the old road now, it come in this side of the old fort down there. Across the creek right north of the old fort. Come on out by old Oaksville. I went on out on the south side of Mr. George Pritchard's place, and on the north side of the Davis place, and on the north side of the Howard place, onto the ferry on Kamish, that north of where the dam is right now. And old man Howard had across the road up there, he built him a little old store, about a 10 to 12. And he killed lots of hogs. I guess 15, 20 hogs a year. And he kept a little snuff in there. Them Indians come in there and buy 10, 15 cents worth of sugar, quarter worth of lard. She was tough. A box of snuff, you know, about like that'd be nickel, 15 cents. Then they got up to the bottles way on later. They'd buy 10, 15 cents up to a quarter worth of sugar, about that much lard.
Do you remember Rose Hill?
The fellow Jones built it between Gates's Creek and the fort and Clear Creek over there. They cleared that up. We call it the 1,000-acre field. They're all cleared up. When the range all was open here, we had about 300 or 400 head of cattle at one time. Them things would locate right down on that. It's all fenced now between Gates's Creek and Clear Creek. You come up about where the Line V Ranch is now. Laid back south to the railroad there. All cleared up from on out there. The old Swinks, the old man Swink lived in the old Swink building down there the first time that I remember that.
Did you, were you ever inside Rose Hill, the place that Jones built?
No. Rose Hill, now that's over the other side of Sawyer on the south side of the road there. Yeah, that's where it is. I think it was Jones. I don't know whether it's the same Jones that put this in or not. But Jones is the one that put in over there too.
You have any stories about the military road?
Yeah, the old road went out. Oh, they had two. One out from Old Oakville, went right over here, and when you know where my corral is up here,
Yes.
it come into the road right there. You'll find it right there. There's a gate. It goes in out of the Crusade, but right where that gate is where the old military road come in from Old Oakville down here. The other old road from the old fort come up over yonder, come through the Bailey place, and on up that way to Fort Smith, crossed up yonder to find that crossing. And they went that road. Well, these roads went together up there about to find that crossing, the one from Old Oakville and the one from the old fort.
How long were those roads used?
Oh, they wasn't used any, you might say, after the old fort went out down there.
And they closed the fort what year? When did they close the fort?
Well, I just don't know, but it was before statehood. Right smart. We went to church. We lived right on the Howard place, and the old cemetery, the cemetery they got down there now, we come to there to church in a wagon. And we'd have to get up early. We'd come one Sunday in our wagon, and Uncle Alf Adams, he moved out from the old John Smith place up their own Howard's place, and we lived about a quarter apart there. We'd go one time in our wagon, one time in their wagon to church down there, because it'd take about all day, to go down there. Had to get up early every morning to go to church, Go down there to church and then drive back that evening and get back.
You mentioned the ferry down here in the Comish.
Huh?
You mentioned the ferry down here in the Comish.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, the first one that I knew that run the ferry was Don Thompson. He was old man Farr's son-in-law, and old man Farr lived in a little old square-topped house right in front of the building over there. First house this side of the bridge there. Little old square-topped house. They moved it up there with Atkins store, and the old boy that moved in there, he built a pretty nice house there. Well, now his son-in-law run the ferry up there. Because I stayed with them the first year I went to school. Well, this old lady Farr, now she was a fisherman. We fished about 3 times a week. All we had to go right off to the river there. We never fished over 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Catch all the fish. That's 3 of us, 2 old people and me. 3 of us catch them 15, 20 minutes. Boy, we just pull them things out. I'd catch catfish that long in the belly with a hook. And I never have done it since. I a little bit out of it well. That old lady was a fisherman out as well. Then I had my trail up to this bluff, on up to the ferry, about a half mile up to that ferry. Well, if we didn't go fishing, I went up there and rode that ferry boat with Don Thompson back and forth across the river there.
How did he get the ferry across the river?
Well, they had a line stretched up, a wire, and a pulley on that line, on the north side here. And that kind of held the boat straight, They had a paddle on that. The paddle, they hardly ever crossed more than one wagon on a ferry boat.
You say he paddled the ferry across?
Huh?
How did he paddle the ferry across?
Well, I never did cross in the cattle there, but the first cattle that I crossed on a ferry boat, we'd have to cross Comish and then go across Red River. Arthur Holmes had brought up 35 head of cattle and got me to go with him to Paris. Well, we carried him down yonder to old Meg's ferry with him, up below where the Comish comes into Red River, They had a ferry there, I believe they called it the Scott and Stanley ferry then. Them 35 head of cattle now, on a ferry boat about 12 foot wide, and they never had seen no river, no ferry boat, and nothing else. Just me and Arthur Holmes left 35 head of cattle, and I ride the mule now. If you drive these cattle, but it was a cow mule, understand. we had to make about 3 bunches of them cattle to cross them on this ferry boat. And there wasn't a dry hair on that mule when I got the last and put it in there. But that mule, when you turn him after cow, he laid them hairs back and he peeled that tailbone too. And we got him across just about good dark right there. Drove him on to Paris, Texas. His brother had a butcher shop over there. Well, we drove these cattle on over there. There wasn't no road then. There wasn't no section lines and all. The road just went around through the country on up to Paris. Got up there, well, he had a little trouble finding money enough to pay off for the cattle, and there wasn't too much transportation then. You got to go, when you went to Paris, you either went on a train up yonder that was already through yonder, or you had to go horseback in a wagon. There wasn't no buses, no cars. And that's where I seen my first automobile. I had this buggy made out of rubber tires on this buggy. Had this motor sitting up here at this front, and had a sprocket from there back to the back axle, you know, and then start this gasoline motor, you know, on this sprocket. That's my first automobile.
What do you think about that when you saw it?
Huh?
What do you think about that?
I never did think they'd perfect it. I didn't believe it'd ever go on, but it did. That's what it was. I had buggy wheels, big old buggy wheels and all. Start this gasoline motor, you know, and this sprockets and all going. And I had street cars out in the middle of the street, pulled it with little old mules up about that high, you know. 2 of them to the car, you know. Them little old mules, they'd have to get down and dig to start that car, but after they got a start, you know, it'd roll. They had a track out there, you know. Roll on, but they knew right where to stop every time. We stayed over about 3 days. This old boy got a hold of money and come back. I'll never will forget that. I wasn't too old. Arthur said, Willie, I'm gonna tell you one thing. If I have to go run another load of cattle, I'll be after you. 'Cause he liked that mule. He had no sorrel horse, good cow horse, but you couldn't lead him nowhere at all. He jerked loose from him and go to pitching every time. He mean to pitch. He pitched nearly every time Arthur got on him. But Arthur was on the ground all the time, messing with them cattle out, not trying. He could do more on the ground than he could with a horse, you know. We loaded 3 loads of them cattle on that ferry boat.
Tell me again how they got the ferry boat across the river.
Well, they fed it with paddlers.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many paddles did he have?
He had 35 head.
No. How many? Did he just have the one paddle to get the ferry across the river?
He had the one boat.
There's just one boat.
Yeah.
Did he have one paddle to get it across, or 2?
Oh, they had 2 paddles.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
But lots of times they never did use but one.
How much did it cost to ride the ferry?
I think it's around 50 cents, either 2 bits or 50 cents. I think 2 bits for a horse and 50 cents for a wagon.
And how many ferries were in this part of the country?
Well, there's that ferry up there, and the Scott and Stanley ferry was about the only ones that I knew of.
That's on the Red River?
Yeah. Right below the mouth of Comish there. They call it the Meigs ferry after old man Meigs moved in there.
Let me see. Whiskey wasn't allowed in Indian Territory, was it?
No, sir, I had to go over to, what's the little old town south of here, go over there? First little old town, you go right across Red River. That's where they got the whiskey right there.
Denison?
No. What is it?
Paddley?
Huh?
Paddley? Was it
No, this side of Powderly. What's that this side of Powderly? Little town, the whole town, before state of this side of Powder, right on the bank of the river there, right here after cross the bridge there. Powderly is the next town. What's the name of that place, William? Oh, your mind ain't no better than mine, nor will to know my name. Anyhow, that's where they got the whiskey. They go either horseback or in a buggy on this side of the river and get a skiff. Skiff, you know what a skiff is?
Tell me.
It's a little boat, about 3 foot wide, and about 6, 7 foot long. And you take your paddle, and go wherever you want to with it on the water. Or they'd have to go behind the skiff, go buy this liquor and bring it back then, put it over there. They wouldn't lie it over on the in territory side. We didn't have one law over here at that time for years and years, up to statehood. We just had a U.S. Marshal, and he was a half nigger and a half white man.
What was his name?
I don't know his name. Or he had a boy lived over that fennel, Robert Graham, John Graham.
Where did he live?
He did now, been there long.
At that time, where did he live back then?
He lived down here about Old Oakville, somewhere right in there. There was some niggers lived up the creek on this side of where the old road come through. We call it the old Jenny Field. An old nigger lived there by the name of Jenny. And he lived right down in there somewhere. He was half white and half nigger. He was the only U.S. Marshal that we had in this part of the country.
Did you know many of the former slaves?
No.
Now were you in World War I?
Yes, sir.
Did you draft were you drafted or did you enlist?
I drafted.
When were you drafted?
1918, August 26th.
August 26, 1918.
Yes, sir.
Where did you take your basic training?
Camp Pike, Arkansas.
What part of Arkansas is that?
Well, that's right north of Little Rock, not right north of Little Rock.
Tell me about your basic training.
Well, sir, I'll tell you, my training, I never did drill too much. They lined us up, of course we got there, and taking our shots. Lined us up, and I believe they asked, come at this one end or the other. My name was Adams, I come pretty well first. Want to know if anybody ever drove a mule team? I had. Want to know if I'd ever drove 4 mules? I had. Well, they held my hand up all the time. Well, they put me on the 4 mules. Give me 3 hands, brand new wagon, 4 mules. And we hauled that manure and stuff out of that corral down on the Arkansas River, about 5 miles we had to go. We'd make 1 load one day and 2 loads the next. And I had to load it by hand and unload it by hand. And these boys hit me hard as them mules. That is my first part. Well, come along then. I thought I was just getting along fine. Going along, lined up one morning. Called my name again. Said, step out 7 paces and stay there till we come get you. They called out one more name down there, 2 of us out of that company. This old boy come by and said, we're going down to see Captain Ray. Went down and this Captain Ray was at the medical infirmary. And what happened, they had a stockade there, that put all of an air of people, boys in there. Well, they docked them in there, they got them old sores cured up, them old sores from the size of a quarter up to $50, They kept them right there till they healed them up. They used peroxide and raw calomel to cure them up. Well, when they got them cured up, they transferred them up into another area. That was our area, going to be our area if we want to work. The old captain told us, he said, now then I'll tell you what, you boys don't have it to take, but we got to have somebody. If you don't want it, you can go on the infantry, but we got to have somebody. And he said, I'll tell you something else, just what it'll be. whenever you go in there, you'll put on rubber gloves, you'll put on a gown every time you go in that bag. And you'll wear them till you come out. There's 37 of us boys. We worked on a shift, 3 shifts, just like they do up at the hospital, doctoring them old boys. We used Provine Gate potash for this gonorrhea and salvin mercury for syphilis. We put the syphilis in the vein, and this other we made it up in 60-gallon barrels. Had little old pots, about looked like kind of like a coffee pot, about that high, and had a spout on it, a little rubber tube about that. Had a little bitty old nozzle, about 1/4 of an inch on that. And one old boy's job was to mix this medicine. You hadn't just keep them nozzles sterilized, or we didn't. The way we sterilized them then, we boil them, had to boil them 15 minutes. It wasn't put them in there and keep them 15 minutes. They had to boil 15 minutes, you know. But when them old boys come out, they picked up that can, they picked up that nozzle, and dipped up in that thing full. They come around then, and I had a long trough, which you only have them about 30, 35 minutes at a time. They come around to this trough, and I had a place to set this pot up here. Well, the first thing I did, they had 2 glasses, just about like the old snuff glasses, about that high. It's clean, good and clean. They had to urinate in this one, and then this one of them was one, the other was 2, you know. But then, that was our job. We had to take it over there and take his name and his number, and then look at this first one. If there's any threads in there, well, it was plus. If there wasn't any, it was minus. And if the second one had some, the second one was either plus or minus 1. And they had to make 3 minuses in 3 straight days to pass on. We called it putting them on the firing line. We had a bunch going out every day and a bunch coming in every day, you know, a new roster every day. Well, the 37 of us boys worked there till the armistice was signed. And after the armistice was signed, they made an examination place there, you know. The boys had to be examined, you know, before they discharged them, you know. Well, I always thought Captain Bear was a little tough on me. Now, there wasn't no operations. There wasn't no operation in that whole deal. We either cured them or sent them home. Some of them old boys, now this prostate glands now, I massaged them many one of them things out. And that's what it'd get me and my crew. Old Captain Bear said, Willie, no massage. Maybe I'd have 1, 2, maybe we wouldn't have any. But it was my job. But I figured he's picking on me, you know. It looked like that to me, because it's a pretty tough job, because some old boys sometimes you have a little trouble with them. Here's what had happened. That germ goes right on down through the penis and on down through the testicles. Then on up into the bladder into this prostate gland, and it gets inflamed. Well, when it gets inflamed, it's just like a rise. And you got to massage that pus out of there before your medicine can get in it, you know, to get it. And it's my job to put your finger up the rectum and massage 9 times around that way, and then the other one on the other side. And you know, they're placed right on the side of the backbone. And then the other little old gland is right up on top there. The sex gland, just about the side of a bead, right on top of it. But it's always my job to massage them out. Well, after it come, we'd start to examine these boys, you know, coming back through it, discharging them, you know. We got through one evening, and I was standing up to the window. Old Captain Bear come up and says, Willie, call me Willie. He said, Willie, are you married? I said, yeah, I'm married. I said, my wife's working down there in town. He said, you a farmer? I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I'm a farmer. Got some old stock down I guess. He said, Willie, I won't tell you this. You can do it if you want to, but I think it'd be the best for you. I'll furnish you a form to fill out, an application for discharge, and said, I'll guarantee you'll get it and you'll get a good honorable discharge in 3 days. Well, I said, Doc, Captain, I feel like hugging your neck. I said, I've always figured you're against me, but I believe you're for me. He said, I'm for you, boy. I said, I'm for you. We put that in, and I was discharged in. Went by and got my wife, come back home. That old man was for me all the time, but it seemed to me like, and let that, we had a little old corner in the corner of this barrack, you know, we called that our office, you know, where we had to keep these rosters divided, had to make one out every day, you know, that went out. And then have one to use there, you know, that come in. And I never did make a mistake, and every time it'd get messed up, he said, Willie, go straighten it up. And that'd be a job. Now, you go down in that many names, that many numbers. It ruined me in one way. I can't remember a phone number till I walk out that door there, and the name just about the same. It sticks just about like that. Because you handle them every day that way, and always a different number and different name. They won't stick. Can't afford to let them stick.
How do they treat syphilis with mercury? What do they do?
Huh?
How do you treat syphilis with mercury?
You put it in the vein.
You inject it in the...
Inject it in the vein.
Oh.
And them old boys has got to do without supper and breakfast. And if they don't do without breakfast, the first shot, you'll never have to tell him no more. If he has to take another shot, he'll sure go take it. Because them old boys will swell up, that tongue will swell out of the mouth of the harvest, and they're sick enough to die. You won't never have to tell them no more. They won't take that breakfast.
Because mercury's poison, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how do they heal the sores?
They put they used the raw calomel and this stuff that boiled it out. What do you call it? Peroxide. Put that in there, you know, and boil it out. Then put raw calomel on there till it heals that sore up. And that's the stinkiest mess in there. They sent me down there. I never was down there but one time. They sent me down there to some nozzles. Little nozzles like that. And them old boys down there was using the other medicine just like we'd use them. But we didn't have, after the sores are cured up, they transfer them on up there, you know, and treat them till they come out. We never did have one to come back. I guess carried them on over and killed them. We called it putting them on the fire line when we shipped them out.
Were these boys that were coming back from France or hadn't gone over yet?
Oh yeah, they was ones that was drafted in, you know, coming in, you know, and going back. But these, you know, when they went after the armistice was signed, you know, they went to discharging the boys, and they made this joint examination joint, and we had to give them the same test as we get.
Where were all these guys catching the venereal disease?
Huh?
Where were they catching this venereal disease?
Well, that's a $64 question. They've caught them things everywhere in the world to hear them tell it. That is another one of my jobs. If they take the notion to discharge one, they said, Willie, take them over here to the booth and fill out this application. If I got in trouble over there, if I had to call, we had 7 doctors in there, in that barrack. If I got in trouble over there, I'd call old Captain Berry, because he'd one hard. If he wasn't busy, I'd always call him. And it didn't take him long to straighten him out. He weighed about 300 pounds, and he could talk pretty rough.
Were those soldiers punished if they caught venereal disease?
It could have been after they'd treated them. They couldn't get no more passes. But them that did come in, they kept them in that, we call it the bullpen down there. They was guarded down there and stayed there till they come on up, and they was guarded in our area there. We had an area there that they couldn't go out again either.
What'd you do on Armistice Day? The day the war ended?
Well, sir, you'd be surprised, but you know, people's hard to handle than cows. We had This venereal disease naturally works in niggers and Choctaws. You find more of it than anybody else. I reckon they never did try to take care of it, nothing like that. The niggers were crazy. Well, we couldn't get enough white men together to handle it. We had a raft of niggers, one area of niggers, nothing but niggers. You know, they grabbed up and going home. Now they're just like herding a bunch of cattle out there right now. They're hard to keep too. Well, that shows me that there's a little difference in a nigger now than there's a white man. Because now the white boy didn't do that. But that bunch of niggers now, I'll tell you right now, they was something to corral. I'll tell you right now, they called us, the 37 of us boys, they got us out right quick. Them niggers, they got in one accord right quick. Well, they just picked up when they had already gone.
Did you celebrate that day?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Nothing. I was glad of it. I'll tell you that. So.
What about the flu epidemic?
Well, so that was something, sure enough. See, it was there when I went in. I laid out 3 and 4 old boys, from 21 to 30 years old there at one night's time. All the world would give them old boys that come in there for the flu. Them doctors didn't know what to do for them. They'd give them 2 of these CC pills, you know, it's calomel and most of calomel, and a dose of salts. Next morning, the old boy would be dead. Just a lot of them dead. That's what they done for the flu now when they first started the doctor. But they got on better after a while, but there's a many one of them old boys, big stout men that died overnight. It's pitiful. I laid out 4 and 5 of them a night by myself. I had to wash them, you know, and clean them up. It's pitiful then. Them old boys, you hear them talk about dying. It started talking. When one got ready to go, you know. And his best friend had come to him, you know. It might be his mother, might be his sister, might be his girlfriend, or his wife. But that's just about the way they'd go, you know, when they got ready to go. It's pitiful, majority of them.
So you came back and started farming again?
Yes, sir. Hadn't stopped.
How did the Depression affect you and your family, 1930s?
Mighty bad. Mighty bad.
Had you bought a farm at that time? Did you own a farm?
Yes, sir. I bought this 40 acres here. We had 2 banks in Fort Towson. I bought this 40 acres here for $800, and I paid them $600 down, and that made me owe them $200. And before I got the $200 paid, I bought nearly the whole county for $1 an acre. The whole county went up nearly for taxes. I had $200, the hardest $200 I ever had to pay, I guess. Well, I never would have paid it, I don't guess. My wife had no way to teach it. I don't guess if they ever could. I got to pay. Next land I bought right up here, I bought 10 acres, $2 a half. And I'll tell you right now, that thing had paid off like nobody's business. They'll call it the old Pittman place up there. The little shack on that thing. And that was the first timber that I ever sold right there. The boys over at Paris come over here. I sold it to them 4 inches up. Well, that pine come up in there just like oats, you know. And I sold it to them 4 inches up. I thought that was a pretty good deal. But them pine trees, when they first come up, right above the ground there, there'll be a ring come around the bottom of that, you know. It's about that much. Now, them old boys, they dropped down below that ring right at the edge of the ground, you know, and sawed them off. And when they piled them up, they had a good 4 inches on them out there. But up 2 inches each way up there, they wouldn't have went 3 inches hardly. Just tapered right off nothing. That was about selling timber. From then on, I had the height of the stump and the size of the stump wherever they cut it from then on. I've sold lots of timber since that day. The next land I bought was Clanahan and Andy Collins, brothers to these boys down here. Had 80 acres up there. Well, I bought them and the bank was partners in this 80 acres. Well, I bought the bank's part easy. Well, Buck Clanahan, he moved down to Lubbock, Texas down there. And of course, he helped me up. I 2 years, I guess, buying his part of that. That was the next land that I bought.
Can you tell me when they first started building the town of Fort Towson, what the town looked like?
Well, it's just a bunch of, first thing they done, they put in a grocery store. And up till that mill come there, it's just like a most little old town. My uncle, this Jack Egerton, he put in a store there. Well, old man Rodenthal, he moved to town, moved to Fort Towson down there and put in a grocery store. And then mostly grocery store and feed stores.
They moved from Dotesville to Fort Towson.
Yeah,
Well,
that's right.
Why did they keep the name Dokesville?
I guess that was the old post office when we had a post office there. That's what we got. I don't know where it got it and how it got it.
How come they didn't keep the name Dokesville at Fort Towson?
I don't know. I just don't know about that. I wasn't bothered about that. I was just a kid.
well, what about that pine belt?
That pine belt was the life of the 4,000.
What is a pine belt?
Pine belt put in a mill there at 4,000. A big mill there.
What kind of mill?
A lumber mill. At first, before the pine belt come in, Wright and Leard put in a mill right down here at Forks of the Creek, right below the Loucharlie place. Well, they had them a wooden tram come on up here and went on up here. And they had trucks on that, you know, and they'd load them logs on it. Pretty good bunch of logs, and then pull it down there with the mules. Well, when the pine belt come in, they brought them out. And they put steel track in over yonder. First front they had was west of the tower over here. And then 1909, we lived up here at the Wheeler place, Marvin Ford's place, in 1909. My daddy had two pair of mules, and the Lawrence boys had a team apiece, was 4 teams. They started in down there on the pear trees at the pine belt, where the line went that way and come this way with this line here. And they made that in 1909 over to Little River, to Pine Knot Crossing. That's where they quit them right there. They worked all the summer there. Columbus Cooper, you remember him. Columbus Cooper worked for us that year for $15 in his board. He made a corn crop on the Marvin Ford's place up there, and we had 15 acres over on the Carper place over yonder where the old man had the nursery. We had 15 acres of corn over there, and Columbus made a corn crop that year. That was 1909. They put this through here. We bought the old gin out up in there in about 19, I guess, or 19, 20. And
So you bought the gin out?
yeah,
What, the cotton gin?
cotton gin, yeah. And 20, cotton went down to nothing. We lost about a little over $4,000 in the gin. We had a pretty good deal there. If it went ahead of raising cotton, but everybody quit. It went down to nothing. Pine Belt built a track outside of the seed house where they'd pull a car in from Frisco, you know, and pull it up there, and we could blow the seed right in the boxcar, you know. And we got one full where they'd pull it in town for us. But it wasn't no good without cotton.
Much time have we
2:30. What are you supposed to do?
Three.
I kept buying land here till at one time I owned about 1,200–1,300 acres of land. And I just got 1,000 acres now, barely getting the taxes paid on. But this pine's been a lifesaver. I'll tell you that. I got some pines I set out 28 years ago. It'll go about 16 to 17 inches now, and I thinned it twice. It's pretty good. But I don't want to set out no more. I'm getting too old. I'd heap rather have a pine thin. Now I sold 40 acres off up here for $6,000 from the 80s stump, 8 inches high. I didn't do it like I done this down here. But I went down there and cut it, and then there was patches in there that need thinning. Well, this old boy at Broke Bowl there, old Terry Baker, he's been my timberman all the time. That is, he worked for the state for years and years, and he went to working for them people over there. And he went in there and got at them spots over there and got 5 big truckloads of post out of there. Thinned it after they'd cut from 8 inches up.
Well, what year did you move here?
About 23, 22.
You raised your whole family here?
Yeah, they had already rode horseback from here to Fort Dallas from school.
Where'd you meet your wife?
Well, so I met her right down here at where you cross that first branch, the old Loucharlie place.
Oh, what's her name?
Tutton.
Tutton?
Mary Tutton. Right behind you there. We married July the 4th, 1918.
What else?
We raised 5 children, lost one. I'm proud of them, every one of them. The boy, he kind of let me down a little. He finished high school down here. He went to Western Oklahoma, went chopping cotton 50 cents a day. But he went on to Stillwater to A&M. The oldest girl went to Stillwater to A&M. Second girl went to Durant. She taught here at Fort Dallas after she graduated down there.
In the old days, what did you do for recreation?
Me?
Yeah. You have dances?
Oh, they used to when I had a family. They had what they call parties and dances. We went to them all. We went to Sunday school. We went to preaching. They had a party. Lots of people would have a party, you know, but you couldn't have music and dance. Some of them have a regular dance.
How come you couldn't have music and dance?
Huh?
How come you couldn't have music and dance?
Oh, you know, got different people in our community, you know. Some people didn't care for dancing. Some of them wouldn't have it at all, but they'd play, you know, all right. Sing and play, but no music.
What about fox hunting?
I fox hunted a little over 50 years. I don't regret that a bit more. I spent lots of money.
How did you take them dogs when you went?
I'd take them in the truck.
Before the truck.
Huh?
Before the truck.
I went horseback. I hunted down there around the bridge, down there on Comish, there, horseback. Me and Doc Reed, when Doc Reed retired up there, him and Wolf made that clinic up there, you know, the Wolf and Reed Clinic. Well, Reed, he went chiropractic. He was a medical doctor there, him and Wolf was, when they built that clinic. Well, he went chiropractic, and him and Smith moved up in town where White's insurance outfit is there. And he retired there. Well, he come down here and asked me, he said, "Willy, would you fox hunt with me?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for somebody to fox hunt with right now." Well, he said, "I'm going to hunt for a while. I don't know how long. Says I'm retired. I'm going on. So he moved his dogs over there where Cotton Davis lives. He bought him an old pony. Wasn't no roads in to drive a car. Me and that doctor hunted together nearly 2 years. I don't guess we ever had a crossword anywhere. He had an old pony over there, and I had one year. I'd go over there once. He'd come over here once. He had fox over on around the mountain. I had fox over here at the Roy Bigham place. Now we done that for years and years and years. Well, a year, nearly 2 years. Doc had a little money, and I just barely feed my old dogs. I had lots of fun out of it. One night I asked him, I said, Doc, I want to know just how come you quit the medical doctor. Well, he started in with every medicine, you know, quinine, this and that, you know, went over them all, you know. And he says, when you get through with it, you're in worse shape you was before you take the first dose. I said, I went to chiropractor. Well, he didn't talk much, doctor. Didn't talk to me. I said, I'll tell you what I think about it, doctor. I believe you just quit to rub around on the women folks. Never said a word. And I said, I want you to rub around on my folks. Never said nothing. Went on, and after he retired, he'd been retired a year, I guess. Our baby girl taken sick. That doc bore you with her twice, 3 times. One night, my wife said, Willy, says, that kid ain't getting no better. I said, I believe she got appendicitis. Well, I said, in the morning we'll load her up and we'll carry up Doc Reed. I said, well, he can tell, he looked at her where she got appendicitis, Doc. Them suckers can, they can just tell her what's the matter with you. I said, we'll take her Doc Reed in the morning. We loaded her up and carried her down. Down. Told her what it was. I said, now, Doc, I don't know nothing about that technical name. I don't want you to tell me just what's the matter with the kid. I said, I don't know nothing about that technical name. Call it some big name, you know. He told me just what's the matter. I said, can you help her? He kind of grinned. He remembered what I told him. He said, yeah, I can cure her in 2 treatments. He said, you want me to treat her? And I said, yeah, go ahead and treat her. Well, we carried down out of next time he told us to bring her back. He said, she's all right.
What was wrong with her?
I done forgot now. Something's about on the inside or somewhere. It got crossed up. He told it how it was. So I said, Doc, how much owe you? He said, Willy Adams, I laid out with you 2 men a night. I said, you couldn't pay me a penny no way in the world.
Well, Mr. Adams, I think we have a good interview.
Well, that's about all I know.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, nothing in particular, I reckon.
Do you have any more questions?
I'm glad of one thing. I lost my wife about 6, 7 years ago. Made it kind of bad, but I'm getting along pretty good. I'm thankful. I'm thankful I'm living. I don't owe anybody. I got my tax paid.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah?
Let's see.
William here can tell you.